In this presentation, we are going to talk about how to manage student behavior. We won't go into too many details on specific problem behaviors, but we will instead discuss more of how you can prepare to handle misbehavior and how you should approach correcting a student who is misbehaving. One of the most important things you can do before you even encounter a situation where you need to correct behavior is to plan ahead and think about how you will handle a situation. That way you won't be flustered if a behavior issue does come up, and you will be confident in how you handle it. So one of the pieces of planning ahead is creating a discipline plan with the teacher you work with. So make sure to discuss how to handle misbehaving students with your teacher and come up with a discipline plan. You can have this conversation in person or via email, but it's important to have this early in your tutoring relationship. So early on, don't have this conversation any later than your second tutoring session. So when you talk with a teacher, this will help you enforce classroom rules as opposed to accidentally contradicting them. If you do work with multiple teachers, remember different teachers may have different rules. And these plans may include stages depending on the seriousness of the behavior issue. So now we're going to go over some examples of misbehavior and what a tutor's response could be. So I want you to take a minute to think about how you might respond to each of these offenses. I'm going to pause for a few seconds in between telling you the offense and telling you the tutor's response, and I want you to think about how you could handle the offense. Please also take note of how the offenses are varying levels of seriousness and how the tutor's response changes based on the offense. Now, these are just examples of how a tutor could respond. Responses obviously will vary depending on the discipline plan that you discuss with the teacher. Our first offense is that a student is swinging their legs violently while reading aloud. And a tutor's response could be to remind the student to put their feet flat on the ground so they can concentrate. A second offense is that in a small group, one student is repeatedly interrupting other students during group discussion. The response could be to remind the student that they need to wait their turn and also what your rules are for taking turns in the group. And if they still continue to interrupt, the tutor can send them back to class. And our last example offense is that a student is using inappropriate language, swear words. And the response could be the tutor escorts the student back to class and reports the incident to the teacher. So now we're going to talk about how you should correct behavior a little bit. One of the important things to remember is that you should correct inappropriate behavior if you see it. This is part of your role as a tutor, and it's important that you feel comfortable and confident correcting inappropriate behavior. If you don't correct behavior, students may take advantage of your time and they won't get as much out of their tutoring session as they should. When you do correct behavior, it's important to be firm, be confident, but be polite. Don't raise your voice. If you are working with a young student and they have a temper tantrum, get a staff member who can help calm them down. And the last thing to remember when you're correcting behavior is to make sure that your response is appropriate given the offense and that it fits with the discipline plan that you discussed with the teacher. For example, if a student at the very beginning of your session has a hard time focusing, but they settle down, you probably don't need to send them back to class. Whereas if they were fidgeting for the entire time, you may want to mention it to the teacher. So now we're going to talk about some of the issues our Accelerate Northfield tutors have run into the most. And our top three issues are an unfocused or fidgeting student, and trying to manage a small group and making sure all the students are engaged. And then the third one is copying work of others. So it's remember to plan ahead and think about how you could deal with these issues before you start tutoring, and then discuss your thoughts with the teacher to come up with a discipline plan. Again, this will help you be prepared and confident in handling behavior issues when they arise. So, to summarize this, remember that when you are correcting student behavior, you should correct behavior. It is part of your role as a tutor. Plan ahead and think about how you will deal with some common behavior issues before you start tutoring. Discuss a discipline plan with the teacher. And finally, make sure your response is appropriate given the seriousness of the offense. And for more resources and specific strategies on how to handle misbehaving students, check out the Resources tab of our website at acceleratenorthfield.org for more information.